Good morning, everyone. Just thought I would touch base. Today is day 2 with Baby Blue. She's doing fantastic. Yesterday when I got her, it was about an hour after she got off the plane, we got home. She started playing with toys and I wanted to get a weight on her. I knew as soon as I could, just so I would have a base weight to go off of for moving forward. Yesterday when I weighed her, she weighed 220 grams, and in her shipping crate she had a lot of her pellets that she was weaned to, and then her fresh fruits and vegetables. So she definitely had opportunity if she were hungry to eat. When I looked in there, it looked like the fruit had been gone through a little bit, and the pellets didn't look like they had been really touched at all. So I thought, okay, I want to get a good weight on her just so I would have a good baseline. She was 220 grams yesterday, and I weighed her first thing today. Now, she had pellets all through the night because she is a baby. She will eventually be on a scheduled feeding like Tukey, my blue and gold macaw. But because she's so young, of course she gets her pellets all the time. So she might have eaten some pellets this morning. I weighed her and she weighed 220 grams. And she was incredible last night. And I say this because I have never had a baby that loved good food right off the bat, which is so incredible to me. The breeder definitely had offered her fresh vegetables and fruit. Now, I'm not going to offer her fruit every day because, as we all know, it's high in sugar, and I would rather it just be, a once in a while treat rather than an everyday, this is what you're going to have. She will definitely have her fresh greens, her leafy greens, her vegetables, sprouts, things like that. I make the bird trick muffins, and that's really the only way that I've been able to get Tukey to eat close to anything like the bird tricks pellets or the tops pellets. He loves the muffins. I make them as directed. The only thing that I do different is I take an overripened banana, and the last time I made muffins, it was a triple batch, and I added an overripened banana, and it just helps with the texture. It just kind of gives a little bit more moisture to it, and they freeze great, and the birds love them even once they're frozen and thawed. So I knew I could make a triple batch and be fine and not go to waste. So yeah, she's eaten really good, and she seems to really like the fresh sprouts, which is great. With this video, I kind of wanted to go over some successes and failures of my first blue and gold macaw that I had. I purchased him many, many years ago. It was before there was a lot of knowledge on the internet. Like, I tried to do as much research as possible, but to be quite honest, I could have done a much better follow through. So I'm highly to blame with with all the bad habits. So I'm just hoping that, if somebody's thinking, hey, maybe I want a bird, they see a bird in a pet store, it's so cute and cuddly, I just hope that somebody might watch and say, well, let me see, let me watch this and maybe see if a bird is right for me. I've worked in a vet clinic for 20 plus years. I no longer work there. And I was introduced to the blue and gold macaws through one of our exotic doctors that I worked with. She did the aviaries birds, and I just remember her bring in, she had an umbrella cockatoo and a blue and gold macaw. They came in an incubator, and we had to hand feed, and I jumped at that chance to get to learn to do all of that. And then I just knew that eventually I wanted a bird. And I probably, if people ask me, hey, what's the best starter bird? There really isn't, I don't feel in my heart that there's a bird called a starter bird, because they all need, very special care. And just because, whether it's a small little lovebird or a huge hyacinth macaw, they still need a good diet, good sleep, a good environment. So is it a starter bird? I would say I don't feel like there's a starter bird. I think that there's different species of bird for everybody. I feel like I am definitely a macaw person. I do not feel like I would ever own a cockatoo, and that's not the fault of the cockatoo. I just don't feel like a cockatoo and myself would be a good mix. I've just always been drawn to the macaw, so that is what I got. I ended up rescuing my very first rescue, which was many years ago. A woman ended up surrendering BG to the clinic that I worked at, and I jumped on that and said, I'll take her. Little did I know the trial and error and the work that would be put into her being a rescue. I later had found out from the owner that surrendered her that she thought she was a wild-caught macaw, because she was older even when she got her. When she ended up getting her, she worked from home, so she did not have a job outside of the house. She was home all the time, then she had her kids that she was taking care of, and everything was great. Well, then her kids ended up getting, they grow up, of course, and she ended up getting a job outside the home, and the bird completely plucked because she spent every moment of the day pretty much with this bird. The bird was never alone for 8 hours at a time. Well, then, she went to work, and all of a sudden the bird's like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? Let alone, I don't feel like she had a whole lot of toys available. But even if she did, I feel like that's one thing that I'm trying very hard not to do with Blue, because it's so easy when she's so cuddly to be like, oh, I'm just gonna sit and cuddle you all day long. Well, the reality is that I'm not going to be home all day long all the time. So why get in the habit of her thinking, okay, this is going to be my routine. This is my new normal, is I get to be out all the time and be, cuddled all the time. Well, that's not reality, because, for maybe a few days or even a week, people do that, but then their baby birds grow up and, our lives move forward. So BG, my rescue, she had a lot of medical issues. She really didn't live that long after I had adopted her, sad to say. She was on a very unhealthy diet. She would pretty much eat people food. That's what I was told when I got her. Like, if the family had pizza, that's what the bird got, is pizza. Roast beef, chicken, anything that the family was eating, then that's what the bird would be eating. And, in reality, Americans, most of us, we don't eat healthy. So what's not healthy for us is not going to be healthy for a bird by any means. So, why subject them to that? Because we're eating unhealthy. Why do they have to eat unhealthy? We have a choice on what they eat. We have a choice on what we eat. But, we like junk food, myself included. She did not live very long. And shortly, it was a few years, I think, after that, I ended up purchasing my first blue and gold macaw baby. His name was Kimura. Got him from a great breeder. I did as much research as I thought I needed, but honestly, you never know enough. And things are always changing in medicine and training, and so what was good 30 years ago is definitely not good now. So one of the successes, I'm going to go through a little bit of a success first, because honestly, it's a much shorter list. I did so many failures, and that's why I'm hoping through this video, even if it's just through word of mouth, like maybe I know my family is watching my videos, so thank you, I love you guys. But maybe they know somebody that's saying, oh man, I would like a bird. Like my husband came home last night and says, oh yeah, so-and-so's wife wants a bird. And he was asking, oh, well, is it like a dog? No, definitely not. And I told him, please say they're very, very much not like a dog. That was a huge failure for me with my first bird. We'll go into that a little bit more. My one success that I did have is when I did get Kimura. I knew I wanted to put him on a healthy diet. I knew I wanted him to eat fresh vegetables. Sprouts came later because I didn't even really know about sprouts way back then. I mean, we're talking prehistoric people. I mean, I'm older. So the information that was out there was a lot more minimal. One thing that I did do correctly with Kimura was I never had him on a routine, really, and he was exposed to new people, places, and things almost every single day. Once he settled in at home, and I'm not saying like weeks and weeks, I mean, he might have spent like 2 days at home, and then he had his harness. We were doing harness training, and we were going outside, and he would meet different people. We would be different places. He would be exposed and desensitized. So that was probably my biggest success with Kimura, was that I exposed him to everything to where nothing really fazed him. I mean, no sounds, fireworks, nothing. I mean, my dogs freak out at fireworks. That bird would just be like, whatever, oh God, it's the 4th of July again. So that was a major success. I did have a brief success, and I'm going to say brief because I knew I wanted him to eat healthy. So when I got him and the breeder had weaned him to the Zupreme fruit pellets, so there's all these artificial colors, artificial preservatives, sugar, salt. I mean, pretty much it's better than just strict seed, but it was the least healthy pellet probably. And when she told me she weaned him to that, I just followed suit because at the time there were no Bird Tricks pellets. I didn't even know about Tops pellets. They probably did exist, but I did not know about them. And as I go on, you'll, even if they were around, I got so lazy with the diet that it wouldn't have mattered because I failed him as far as diet goes. Now, it wasn't that he ate everything off the table that we were eating. I mean, he definitely had his food. I offered him fresh food. I never had success with him eating fresh food. This is why. When he was a baby, I get up in the morning. I would literally chop every morning. I would chop up some fresh veggies and leafy greens and put it in his bowl, and he would be sitting there, watching me do it. I'd take him and put him in his cage so he could eat, and he would taste them. Most of it went to the floor, but my kids were home at the time, and then here comes my son, and he liked Eggos in the morning, and of course, peanut butter on Eggos. Well, then, he would share with Kimura. Well, Eggos with peanut butter, fresh kale, greens, fresh veggies. I mean, come on. So that was a big fail for me because the way I looked at it was that my son was bonding with Kimura, and he really was. The bird loved him. Corey could do anything with him. But it really set long-term success as a failure with diet because anytime he heard the toaster, he figured he was going to get an Eggo, and most of the time Corey would go get him and they would share breakfast, and I just thought, oh my gosh, that's so cute that they're bonding. And yes, it was cute, but it was a big failure for food. So please, I beg you, don't don't set your bird up for failure like that, because it will happen. Even if you think, oh, I'm just gonna do it this one time, maybe just, oh, it's nice to share a meal. Okay, if you're gonna share a meal, share a salad with no dressing, share their food. I just went to the store today and got fresh kale and oh my gosh, all the fresh leafy greens, zucchini, squash, bell pepper, Brussels sprouts, and I made, and chopped it up, made it all fresh. And so definitely set your bird up for success when it comes to diet. It's a huge thing, diet and sleep. Also, when I had Komoro, there was no room that he could go in that was a bird room like I have now. He was in the house in the major part of it, the heavy traffic area. And, between me and my husband at the time, one of us would always go to sleep really late. So of course, Komoro was exposed to TV and laughter, late at night. And then of course I would get up for work the next morning. My kids would get up for school, 7 o'clock. And so he did get sleep, but not nearly enough. Birds need, at least 11 or 12 hours sleep. And I would say more close to 12, even 13. And it will make a big difference. And that's one thing I did hear when I got Kimura, but it didn't sink in. And so that was a failure as well, because he wasn't getting the sleep that he needed. So if you are thinking of getting a bird, be aware of that. So I always recommend, if you want the cage in a high traffic area of the house, that's great, because then they're with you and they're part of the family and together. But I do believe that they should have a sleeping cage, then a cage that they can go into and be in the dark and be in the quiet and be able to get their necessary amount of sleep. They really do need more sleep than what I think we think. And I know that there's a lot more information on it now. So, hopefully, and I know people are trying to get better. I just feel like with the first time bird owners, I'm hoping if I can just reach one person to tell them about all the things that I failed at, that they could not, maybe they won't make the same mistake. Another big failure, the biggest failure, and I cannot stress this enough, like a huge fail. Many years I trained dogs, trialed them, titled them, showed them, and when I started with the bird, I definitely had in mind that this was the way I was going to train. It was going to be training like I would train a dog. Well, there's nothing similar even about it. So if you think you're going to get a bird and train them like a dog because you've had all this dog experience like myself, and I mean, I'm guilty. So that's why I'm trying to say, don't let it happen. Baby birds are, you definitely train baby birds a bit different, I feel, but with the adult birds, it's really permission based. So, birds are smart, they're sensitive, and they're stubborn. And, when you think of a dog, you think, oh my gosh, lovey, loyal, and just most dogs just want to please. So, that's why we use them for therapy, is because they want to please us. Birds are smart enough to be used for therapy, but they don't have that mentality. If you think that you're going to get a bird and think, oh my gosh, this bird is going to do everything for me. No, birds, it's what you can do for them. Quite honestly, anytime you ask them to do anything, now I'm talking an adult bird, babies are a bit different, but even the babies grow up to be adults. So yeah, we can train them as babies, but then it will still lead into permission-based training, is what the Womacs call it. And it's the best advice. I did not do this with Kimura. I went through and I trained him like I was training one of my dogs. huge fail. Meaning that, so when he got older, of course, he kind of got out of that baby mentality of, he would always step up. He would always, but then, they grow up and they get a mind of their own and they can be very stubborn. I would do as like he was a baby. I would put my hand up, and if he didn't step up, I would make him step up. Big no, you don't do that. Please don't do that, because all you're gonna do is eventually ruin your relationship if that's the way you feel, if that's the way you train. I remember reading a long time ago too, it was about the flock behavior, and I remember reading something about like the top bird would be on like the top perch of the tree, and then if there was a scuffle or something, that the top bird would defend the top tree or the top branch and knock them down. Well, I had that happen with Kimura, where he was on the back of the couch, and he did something. He was mad at me because I was texting on my phone or doing something with my phone, so he just reached down and just nabbed me, and I just, out of pure instinct, I just swatted, and he fell to the ground. And looking back, it's so sad, because at least I can say that I've learned from the failures of my first bird. So if I can just keep one person from doing the same failures as what I had done, it will be worth it. Eventually, with all okay, you're not going to step up, I'm going to make you step up. Like, you would put your hand into the chest and make him step up. Well, eventually he got so hand aggressive, if my hand came towards him, if he didn't want to step up, he would take a chunk out of my hand. And it wasn't his fault, it was mine. I should have listened and should have learned a long time ago that I was doing the wrong thing. So birds are definitely very, 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 very different than dogs. You don't train a bird like you do a dog, ever. Another thing that I do remember hearing, and I just ignored it because I thought, oh, it's just a baby, is the petting in forbidden places, meaning down the back. You don't pet the belly or down the back. You stay in the head, neck area. You can touch the feet. Any place that's going to over heighten them and trigger their hormones. Well, I just remember thinking, well, it's just a baby, so I'll just do it while they're a baby, and then stop when they get older and more hormonal. Well, it doesn't really work that way. For one, if you pet a baby down the back one time, is it gonna trigger hormones? Probably not. But the problem is I think we get into a habit of petting a certain way, and so the one time, or it's just while he's a baby, turned into longer than what it should have, or it should have never happened at all. Quite honestly, I should have just stuck with the areas, the head, neck, scritches, but I didn't, and so that triggered hormones, and we had a huge battle that way. And plus, he would regurgitate all over his toys during breeding season, and oh my gosh, it was so awful. Like, he'd regurgitate all over his cage. Oh, it was just a mess, and I caused that, and that's so sad that I think about it now, and I'm just like, what an idiot. Why did I not listen? I was just younger and stupid and just thought I knew better, and I didn't, and I just totally failed that bird. He ended up getting rehomed after I had a car accident. He was 28 years old, and I've tried to get him back multiple times before I ended up fostering Tukey. But the person who took him, just loves him, and good, because I bet you they have a much better relationship after 2 months of him being with his new person than he had with me at the end of being with me 20 plus years, because I destroyed our relationship. I messed it up. And was it beyond repair? No, it wasn't beyond repair, but it was just so frustrating to me that I had this bird that I had raised from the time he was 4.5, 5 months old, to a bird that would barely step up if I asked him, because he just didn't want any part of my hand, unless I had a treat. So please, for anybody's sake, even if you're thinking about fostering, in fact, if somebody's really thinking about getting a bird, probably one of the best things I could say is, get in contact with your local rescues. It was about 4 years after I had rehomed Kimura that, I went through such a depression and such a bad time in my life that it was like 4 years after I rehomed him, and all of a sudden my house was so quiet. My husband and I are empty nesters, so his kids have kids, and we have our grandkids, and my kids are, in different states, and my house just seems so quiet, and I just missed everything about it. So rather than run out and buy a baby bird, I was like, I'm not doing that. I'll just maybe get one, a foster, and I'll do foster care. So I contacted my local rescue, and honestly, I signed up for foster care, and a week later I had Tuki. And I've learned so much with him. And he came to me, and he was not abused by any means. I think the homes that he had prior to me, I'm his fourth home, I think. He wasn't in like a major bad situation. He was on a terrible diet. He was on just a commercial seed diet. And I ended up, he transitioned to that fairly well. I still can't get him to eat the Tops pellets or the Bird Tricks pellets that I really wanted him to eat, but he does eat the Bird Trick muffins, which are pretty much a lot like their pellets. So, he'll eat a muffin a day for sure. He just loves those. So, yeah. I don't want to go on and on because this is a fairly long video for not having any birds in it, but I just wanted to try to reach out to maybe a few people that, if they thinking they're wanting a bird or a bird might be for them. I just wanted to share my failures, because if somebody can learn from my failures, then it will be just a better environment for their bird and themselves. They'll just have a much better relationship, because trust me, if you do what I did with my first bird, it will end up the same way. You'll just have a terrible relationship, and it will be awful. So I hope that this will help somebody. Another thing with birds is they're expensive. Oh my gosh. So I remember going into the pet store. In fact, the pet store that I went into with Kimura when he was young, he was on a harness. It was Bird World. Then they're not even open now. They had shut down. But Tuki came from there. So when I started fostering him, I knew that he came from Bird World because his original owners had surrendered him to the same foster. So he was clipped right off the bat. I know when they're in this pet store that they did not allow them to fledge just because of the risk that it pertained to the birds. So they were clipped prior to even learning how to fledge. I disagree with this. I know that when they're in a store, you're running lots of risks. So I think that for the bird safety, yes, it's done, but I feel like the birds should be able to at least learn to fly and know that they have that kind of mobility. Tuki, I'm still trying. I've had him for 2 years now. Our relationship is wonderful, but he is stubborn. Like today, he didn't want to step up. Now, if this was Kimura, I would have asked him to step up, and if Kimura would have just sat there and been like, no, I would have been like, no, you're stepping up. With Tukey, I sit there for a few seconds, and then if he doesn't want to step up, I turn away. He's lost his opportunity. I'll sometimes even walk out of the room and go back, 5 minutes later and ask him to step up again. And today it took 3 times because he just didn't feel like he wanted to step up. And he knows, our relationship, I've never pushed it. It's always been permission-based. I've never made him do anything, ever. So our relationship is really good. I can put my hand right up to him and he doesn't look at it like it's going to be forced into his chest or make him think that he's going to be made to step up. If he doesn't step up, he doesn't step up. Today I had to go get a little piece of almond and show him the almond and then ask him to step up, and he's like, okay, well, you've got a reward for me, so yeah, I'm going to step up. That's just the way birds are. If they're not in the mood to do something, then you're not gonna, you shouldn't make them do it, because it's just gonna destroy the relationship that you have with them. If you're trying to educate yourself as much as possible, definitely watch the Bird Tricks videos, because I'll tell you, I've learned so much, and I wish I could just hang out with them for a day just to see. Jamie Lee just definitely has a way, and Dave definitely has a way, and it's very impressive. And it's great. So I would highly recommend, if you are getting a bird or decide to get a bird, to hire them as your consultants, because I just don't feel like you could go wrong. So toys, they need lots of toys. So you're constantly, birds are just an all out-of-pocket expense. That's just the best way to say it. If you don't have money to be purchasing things every week or making things every week for your bird, then I probably wouldn't get a bird. If you're really strapped for money, and I'm not saying you have to be a millionaire, but you do have to provide toys and good food. So all of this costs money. I remember talking to somebody in the pet store, and they wanted to get the blue and gold macaw that was at the pet store. And they had seen me with Kimura, and they wanted that. They wanted to have a blue and gold macaw. And I just remember the woman saying, well, we just got our taxes back, and he's only $1,500, which at that time, you figure that was 28 years ago, maybe. That's a lot of money even now, but it was really a lot of money then. And I was kind of just overhearing, and I kind of butted into their conversation, because the husband was hawing around and yeah, we do have the 1,500. And I was like, so I says, make sure, you have enough money for cage, and I have a credit card strictly for my pets. My dogs and my bird have their own credit card. The only thing that goes on it is vet bills for them. And, their cage, somebody, when you ask, oh, what's the right size cage? There is really no right size cage for a bird, quite honestly. Yes, we have to have them in an enclosure because we've decided to keep them as pets, but as big of a cage as you can possibly get, it would be the cage that I would get. Tukey, when he came to me, he was in a pretty good sized cage, but it was in very rough condition. It's old. So the first thing I did was buy him a double macaw cage. And of course it doesn't have a center in it, a divider. So he has the whole double macaw cage. And do I feel like that's a big enough cage? No, not really. He has his big aviary outside now, and he enjoys being outside. And so that would be something else I would recommend, is that if you're gonna get a bird, I don't feel like just having the UV lights is enough. I mean, it's no substitute for natural sunshine. And just being out and with the different sounds and desensitizing to different things, I've noticed a huge change in Tukey in just the short time that we put up this aviary this year. He does not react too much with sound or loud sounds, fireworks. He doesn't seem to be bothered by. He seems to be more bothered by items. So he is really weird with new things. I bought this sandy perch, this freestanding perch. If I had it, I would show you. It's just got the acrylic legs, and then it's a sandy perch. It's portable. And I thought, great, it's just a portable perch that he could sit on the table or the counter while I'm making his food. Oh my gosh, he did not even want to come out of his room. I had it in my hand. He seemed petrified by it. So originally when I got it, he was already full. So training would not have been a success in that way, because training is all permission based, and really if they almost need to be hungry, because then it's like, okay, you've got a reward. I'm going to try to do what you say. So the next morning, I actually sat down with him out in his outdoor aviary and worked with him. And he finally came down. He was touching it. He was rubbing it with his beak. And so he went from not even wanting to come out of his room because I was holding it to being able to touch it. That's, that's the kind of training that I have to do with him with certain items. I try to introduce him to something new each day because he is super sensitive with new things. So that's something that I think people have to be aware of too, is I think Dave calls it the noun factor. Introduce your bird to something new, a new person, place, or thing at least every day. That way they become desensitized. It's funny what can, set birds off. So yeah, I can't believe I've been sitting here looking at my own self and listening to myself talk for 38 minutes talking about birds. And not even had a bird in the video. I was gonna show Tukey in this video. I was gonna even have a little bit of a training session to show some of the tricks that he does, and I will do that tomorrow. But I fed him breakfast this morning, not thinking about it because I wasn't planning out my day. I was just kind of a spare of the moment thing. Oh, maybe I'll do this training session with Tukey. And then I was like, no, can't do that because he's already eaten his breakfast and he's be like the step up, maybe. So anyway, thank you guys all for watching. My family, I love you. My friends, I love you. And please, if you know anybody that's wanting to maybe get a bird through word of mouth or something, please tell them maybe about my videos, tell them about Bird Tricks videos. Really, if you're the first time bird owner, just go into it doing it right and really take the time. There's so much better knowledge and information out there on diet and training and free flying and just everything. The Parrot Wizard has really good videos out. In fact, the breeder that sent me Baby Blue sent me a Parrot Wizard hard copy book. It was great. And he really trains really along the same exact lines as Bird Tricks, is what I've noticed, is they really have the very, very similar training techniques. And in my opinion, I think it's really the only technique that almost should be used, I guess, because forcing your bird, you're just not going to be able to do it. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, and I'm sorry if I talked your ear off. I will do another video with Baby Blue a little bit later. She's kind of hanging out in her cage right now. I don't want to, I want to try to distance myself a little bit because normally I would not be home right now. So she would be in her cage by herself. I don't want her to get in the habit of, oh, we're going to cuddle every day for 4 days or 5 days. And then all of a sudden she's left by herself. So she's in exploring. Last time I looked at her, she was playing with her toys in there. So she is fairly independent. But she's so clumsy. This morning, I will tell you that she was playing with the toy. She was getting kind of aggravated at it, I think, and she lost her balance and flew to the bottom of her cage. And me being me, I had to stop and really catch myself because I really kind of wanted to run in there and say, oh, are you okay? And stick my hand in there and have her, perch and then put her back up on a perch. And I had to keep myself from doing that because, in reality, she needs to learn, hey, this is not a big deal, so I lost my balance. I'm just going to climb up. And that's exactly what she did. So really, I caught myself. I didn't go and baby her or, try to get her back up on her perch. I just let her figure it out, to be quite honest. I knew she wasn't hurt. She was fine. But I think us, our instincts are like, oh, let's go help. We want to help them. But in reality, I'm not sure if it was the right, that would be the right thing to do. So I did, I kind of took a step back and I was like, okay, I know I want to run in there, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to keep myself from doing it. I'm going to let her be like, okay, this was not a big deal. So I fell to the bottom of my cage. I'm just going to pick myself up and, go back. And that's exactly what she did. And she went back to the same toy and got mad. So, yeah, so I look forward to doing some more videos. I hope you enjoy it, and I sure appreciate it. So thank you and have a great day.